Hello, and welcome back to The Voice Within. Before we start today's conversation, if you hear any noise in the background, it's because I have some construction work happening around me. I'm trying to minimize it as much as possible, but just bear with me. So, today we're going to talk about growth. All of these past weeks, I was touching the subjects of being self-led woman, being the woman who decides, being the woman who leads herself. Over the past months, I was talking a lot about sitting in discomfort, building capacity to face discomfort, leading your changes, leading your life, leading your family. Today, I want to talk a little bit about growth. When we hear word growth, it basically means what? It means something growing, something becoming something that is not anymore, something changing and becoming different. When we talk about personal development and growth, people often think it means I become somebody else. But if we take example of the child when it's growing doesn't become somebody else. It just simply grows. It learns new skills, it learns new way of coping with the world, it gains new understanding about the world around them. They stay the same. Just the way they perceive the world and the way they move in the world is changing. Whatever you observe around yourself, whatever is growing, flowers, humans, animals, nothing becomes something else. It just changed the way it operates in the world. But for us adults, we kind of stop growing when we become adults. We think that, okay, now I'm adult and I don't need to change nothing. I can simply be who I am all of my life. So if we take example of the child again, let's say the child is trying and learning to put the shoes on. So on the beginning, that shoes putting on becomes clumsy. They don't really know how to do it. They don't know which one is right and which one is left. But with repetition, with the time, they adapting to the new ways of doing the things. That doesn't mean that the child became somebody else. That doesn't mean that the child changed who he is or who she is. It simply means that the child learned new way of doing the things. And if we take this metaphor in example of us adults, then what we used to do in our life is not serving us anymore. It's time that we outgrow that behavior. Basically, things that were helpful before are not helpful anymore. So, what are those behaviors that used to be helpful before and they are not helpful anymore? Let's say people pleasing, over explaining, pretending nothing happens, silencing ourselves, over functioning, over giving, avoiding arguments and conflicts. Those things are not who we are. Those are survival skills. The skills that we learned in our life, and those skills, they kept us safe. It doesn't mean we are broken. It doesn't mean that we are damaged. It simply means that our nervous system adopted to the reality of the life we've been living then. We learned certain skills and certain tools that helped us in that time of our life, in that life reality. Now, what happens when we outgrow those skills? We reach the point where those skills that we had are not helping us anymore. Actually, they are creating us problems. We start seeing that people pleasing, it makes us feel, damaged. It makes us feel like we are overgiving to a people. Avoiding arguments and conflicts or uncomfortable conversation, it creates more problems. We start seeing that the cost of those survival skills that we used to use before are not helping us anymore. This is when people often say, this is who I am. I cannot change myself. Yes, it's true. We cannot change who we are. Our identity, who we are in our core is intact. But what can change is the skills that we are using that helped us before. We can adapt them and change them to something which will be helpful in this new life reality. I often repeat to my son, and he knows it so beautifully, and I'm so happy that I managed to teach him this, that behavior is not who we are. And I have mentioned this many times in my podcast. We often think if I do XYZ, this is who I am. No, this is your behavior. Behavior can be changed. Our brain is so adaptive. Our brain can change, can adopt new habits, new things, new knowledge, if we are ready to expose ourselves to learning process. And this is where it gets tricky. A lot of people, they didn't build capacity to grow. So let's explain it in this metaphor. For example, suddenly you decide to go to the university again and I don't know, get some high degree. You haven't been studying for years. Sitting and studying and devoting and committing to something requires capacity, building capacity to hold that discomfort. That means on the beginning, you have to push yourself, you have to build, I don't know, structure and routines around it. You have to really dedicate the time and push yourself until it becomes easier. Learning new skills or unlearning the survival skills that are not helpful anymore, it's kind of the same thing. We identify what is it in our behavior that is not serving us anymore and how actually we can replace it with something which is more helpful, more meaningful, which brings more stability in our life. So what sits in that capacity? What is in that capacity to sit in discomfort? Is basically ability to be afraid without running away, to feel guilt without collapsing, to feel grief for who we used to be in our life without feeling like victim. It's a capacity to see ourselves from this position and say, what I used to do, it was helpful before. This is not who I am. My behavior is not measurement of who I am like a person. But I have option now to change my survival skills, to change how I behave in this world, and to be actually more calm, more present, and to feel more peace in my life. If you cannot sit in discomfort, you basically cannot change. It's like the same thing. You cannot finish university without basically feeling discomfort of studying. You cannot finish or gain new skill without actually committing to be student again. This is where a lot of adults, we get terrified and we think, okay, I am adult, I know everything, I have been living on this world for so long, I don't need to change nothing, I don't need to grow. This is where ego activates, where we don't want to admit to ourselves that the things we are doing are not serving us anymore. Maybe they are even harming us. So in order for us to grow, we actually have to look at scale of growth that we are required to go through to build capacity for discomfort, to build capacity to see ourselves from this perspective and to say, okay, I can change something. I have agency. The power is in my hands. I can flip this around. I can build my life the way I want. I can be more calm, more peaceful. I don't have to people please. I don't have to over explain. I can adapt my reality to the something I want right now. Our children, they don't know when they're growing what is right or what is wrong. They are moving in life based on what we teach them. And they're doing exactly how we teach them because they don't have ability or capacity to distinguish between this is right, this is wrong. Yes, in some level, the children, they can feel intuitively when we like adults trying to minimize the things, when we're trying to flip reality, when we are pretending nothing is happening, but still they cannot really do the things by themselves. We are their reference point. But as we grow up, as we are not children anymore, we start to build internal reality of what is right and wrong for us. And if we don't check these things that we have learned during our life from the time we were children, we will be still operating on the mechanisms from our childhood. So basically, what I'm trying to say, what kept us safe in the childhood or in our teenage time cannot be the same thing which is helpful when we are adults. The circumstances of our life change. We became mothers, we became wives, we have different set of people around us, other families entering our life. The things that we used to do are not serving us anymore. Actually, they are creating frictions and the problems in our relationships. And more than that, they are creating friction inside of us. We don't feel comfortable when we are people pleasing. We don't feel comfortable when we are over explaining. We don't feel comfortable when we cannot resolve conflicts. We want to have healthier way of moving in life. So in order for us to create that, we have to learn new skills of living, of behaving. And this is what actually growth is. It's being able to sit in discomfort, being able to see yourself so clearly, to look inside, not blame yourself, not make yourself like a bad or broken person, but actually recognizing that, okay, I used to do this and it helped me. It did damage me maybe at that time, but it helped me as well. So I am thankful to myself for that version of myself. And now it's time I learn new skills which will be more helpful for who I want to become now. We all want to be more. We all want to grow. We all want to have more fulfilled life. But if we say to ourselves, this is who I am, we are putting status quo in our life. This is who I am. I cannot change. Nothing is in my power. I am finished product and that's it. There is no growth. There is no change. There is no fulfilled life from that position. Only place where we can change something is when we actually acknowledge I can change something. I am an adult person. I am responsible for my life and I can flip these things around by building capacity to sit in this comfort of growth. Wishing to be more or dreaming to become more or to have different behavior, it's not equal actually becoming that. It takes decision and it takes action to change something. And it takes capacity to sit in discomfort again, to look at maybe anger that kept us safe before, the places where we use silence to don't get punished, the places where we use control to prevent chaos around us, or the places where we are caretaking too much for the people to ensure belonging. If you look into these examples and if you can locate yourself in any of this and draw the line back to the time of your childhood or back in the time of your early 20s, you can see that this behavior actually helped you there, but now it's creating you problems. If you, let's say, are using control to make sure the chaos is not around you, that time maybe that behavior served you, but now maybe it's creating problems in your family where you are trying to control everything and everybody. And more than that, it's creating problem inside of you because you are over functioning, trying to control everything and everybody, and then you feel resentment because nobody is stepping in. Do you see how the things that we used to do are not serving us anymore? And only way we can flip the things around, it's basically deciding to change something. The strategies that we use in our life to survive, the safety strategies that kept us loved, accepted, safe, like we belong, are not identity, are not who we are. Those are just strategies that helped us survive in that time of our life. And now different time of our life came, the circumstances change, and we have to grow and change our strategies to support our new life reality. The question shouldn't be who I am. The question should be who I want to be, how I want to behave, what no longer serves me, what am I willing to let go, what do I want to change in my life. Once you say these questions out loud, then you can see how much power is actually sitting in your hands and how actually we often don't acknowledge that power inside of ourselves. If one person commits to a change, like deeply commits to a change, regardless of discomfort, fear, shame, avoidance, all of the survival mechanisms we are using to avoid growth. If one person decides really to grow and change, it can flip whole life within, I don't know, 5, 6 months. We have a lot of power in our hands when we actually stop pretending that we don't. We can actually change our life, we can adopt new behavior, we can set healthier boundaries, we can learn better communication, we can protect ourselves and the people around us, we can build more meaningful life only when we are committed to growth, only when we accept that in order for us to grow, we have to be able to build capacity to sit in discomfort and reality who we used to be before. And until we build that capacity, we will stay where we are. And for the woman, usually the place where we are without change, without agency to change something, is the place where we blame everybody, is the place where we become victims, is the place where we think that we are helpless, that we cannot change nothing. But becoming self-led woman is basically recognizing that place where we have power. I can change my life. I can do something different. I can learn new skills. This is not who I am. This is what I used to do. And I can learn new things to do which are more helpful. Self-led woman is leading herself into growth regardless of how uncomfortable it is, regardless of consequences of her choices, because she sees bigger picture. She sees farther. She sees that the behavior which was helpful before is not helpful anymore. And she is making decision based on the new reality of her life. And all of that is starting just with the one small decision, internal decision. I want to change something. That's it. I want to change something regardless of what it costs me, regardless of what is happening around me. I want to build different life for myself. That place where you are accepting all discomfort which comes with the growth is actually the place where you can change something. And I hope this today podcast episode encouraged you actually to do just that, to make that decision within yourself, to flip the things, to grow, to learn new skills, regardless of how scary and uncomfortable it is, and actually to build more meaningful life for yourself and your family. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, share this podcast episode with whoever could benefit from it. And until next Sunday, I wish you, like always, beautiful rest of the day.